Do you trust your neighbors? Well, some people don't. This story reviews a lot of secrets, mysterious events that ended lives. Here we go. In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Illinois, the year was 1984, a time when Reagan's voice crackled over the radio waves, promising morning in America. But for the Harlan family, darkness was about to descend like a shroud. The Harlans lived in a modest two-story colonial at 142 Maple Lane, with its white picket fence and blooming rose bushes that masked the ordinary cracks in their lives. Tom Harlan, a middle-aged accountant with a penchant for pipe tobacco, his wife Linda, a schoolteacher who baked apple pies for neighborhood potlucks, and their two children. Precocious 12-year-old Sarah, who dreamed of becoming an astronaut like Sally Ride, and shy 8-year-old Ben, obsessed with his collection of Star Wars action figures. They were the picture of suburban bliss, or so it seemed. Next door at 144 Maple Lane lived Elias Crow, a reclusive widower in his late 50s. Elias had moved in 5 years earlier after his wife's mysterious death in a house fire back east. Rumors whispered that he'd collected a hefty insurance payout, but no one dared ask. He kept to himself, tending his overgrown garden by day and vanishing into his dimly lit home at dusk. The neighbors called him Old Crow behind his back, chuckling at his eccentric habits, the way he'd stare out his window for hours, or the faint, rhythmic tapping that echoed from his basement late at night, like Morse code from a forgotten war. Tom had once tried to befriend him, inviting him to a barbecue, but Elias declined with a curt nod, his eyes cold as steel. The trouble started subtly, with hooks that snagged at the edges of normalcy. One crisp autumn evening in October, Linda found a single black feather on their doorstep. No bird in sight, just the feather, pristine and ominous. She laughed it off as a prank, but Sarah pocketed it, to Ben that it was a sign from a witch's familiar. Then came the missing pets. First, the Johnson's cat vanished, then the Miller's dog. Whispers rippled through the cul-de-sac, fingers pointing vaguely toward Elias's yard, where fresh dirt mounds appeared overnight. Tom dismissed it as coincidence, but Linda couldn't shake the unease, especially after spotting Elias digging in his garden under the moonlight, his silhouette elongated like a specter. As winter gripped Willow Creek, the mysteries deepened. Sarah began having nightmares, vivid dreams of a man with crow-like features pecking at their windows. She'd wake screaming, clutching her pillow, and one night, she swore she saw Elias's face pressed against the glass, his breath fogging the pain before he melted into the shadows. Tom checked, but found nothing. No footprints in the snow, only a faint scratch on the sill, like claws. Ben, too, started acting strange. He'd draw pictures of a shadow man, lurking in the trees, and once he claimed to have found a rusted key in their mailbox, engraved with the initials EC. Linda confronted Elias about it, knocking on his door one afternoon. He answered slowly, his voice a gravelly rasp. "Children have imaginations," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Best not to feed them. But as she left, she glimpsed something in his hallway. A wall of newspaper clippings, yellowed and pinned haphazardly, headlines screaming about unsolved arsons and disappearances from decades past. The night of December 23rd arrived like a thief, blanketed in a heavy snowfall that muffled the world. The Harlans were preparing for Christmas, Tom stringing lights on the tree, Linda wrapping gifts to the tune of Bing Crosby on the record player, Sarah and Ben giggling over hot cocoa. Outside, the street was silent, save for the distant hum of a carol from another house. Elias watched from his window, his face illuminated by the glow of a single candle. What drove him? The neighbors would later speculate. Jealousy of the Harlans' happiness? A grudge from his tormented past? Or something darker, a ritual tied to the solstice, whispered in occult books he'd hoarded in his attic? No one knew, but Elias had planned this meticulously, his basement workshop filled with tools sharpened to a lethal edge. At midnight, the power flickered out, a deliberate cut, the wires snipped in the Harlan's breaker box. Tom grumbled, grabbing a flashlight from the kitchen drawer. "Probably the storm," he said, but as he descended to the basement, a shadow detached from the wall. Elias struck first, silent and swift, a hammer blow to the skull that felled Tom like a tree. Upstairs, Linda heard the thud and called out, her voice trembling. She ushered the children to their rooms, locking the doors, but Elias was already inside, having slipped through the back door they'd forgotten to bolt. He moved like a ghost, his footsteps absorbed by the carpet. Ben was the next to sense him. Hiding under his bed, clutching his Luke Skywalker figure, he peeked out to see boots, Elias's mud-caked boots, pausing at the door. The knob turned slowly, the lock giving way with a soft click. Ben's scream pierced the night, but it was cut short by a gloved hand and a flash of steel. Sarah, in the next room, froze at the sound. She scrambled to the window, fumbling with the latch, but Elias was there, his face twisted in the moonlight. "You saw too much," he hissed, though what she had seen remained a mystery. Perhaps the clippings, or the feather's true origin, a token from his wife's grave. Her struggle was brief, a pillow over her face, the life ebbing away as snowflakes danced outside. Linda found the children first, her world shattering in silent sobs. She grabbed the phone, but the line was dead, another of Elias's preparations. Racing downstairs, she confronted him in the living room, the Christmas tree's lights now eerily restored, casting red and green hues on his bloodied form. She whispered, "Why?" backing away. Elias tilted his head, like a bird eyeing prey. "Because some families don't deserve the light," he murmured, his motive cloaked in enigma. Was it revenge for Tom's casual inquiry into his past? Or a delusion born from isolation, seeing the Harlans as echoes of his lost life? She lunged for the fireplace poker, but he was faster, the blade finding her heart in a final, merciful thrust. By dawn, the snow had covered Elias's tracks as he retreated to his home, the bodies arranged in a macabre tableau around the tree. Tom at the base, Linda slumped nearby, the children tucked as if asleep. The discovery came Christmas Eve, when a concerned neighbor knocked and peered through the window. Police swarmed, but Elias was gone, vanished into the blizzard with only a black feather left on the Harlan's doorstep. Investigations unearthed his clippings, stories of a serial arsonist from the 1950s, matching Elias's description, but no concrete link. The key Ben found? It opened a lockbox in Elias's attic, filled with mementos from other victims. Locks of hair, wedding rings. But whose? And why the Harlans? Before we continue, do you know anyone acting strange around you? Comment below, share, and subscribe to this channel. Years later, in 1984's Fading Shadow, Willow Creek whispered of Old Crow's curse. Sightings persisted. A man with a limp in distant towns, a feather found at unsolved crime scenes. The motive? A puzzle unsolved, hooking the curious like a thorn. Was Elias avenging his wife's death, blaming a Harlan ancestor? Or was it madness, a neighbor's envy turned lethal? The truth, like Elias, slipped into the night, leaving only mysteries in the snow.